College can be an exciting time in a young person's life, a time to make new friends, be independent, and work towards creating a better future for oneself. But science has shown that our prefrontal cortex in the brain isn't fully developed until age 25, and our prefrontal cortex affects how we regulate emotions, control impulse behavior, how we assess risks, and make long-term plans. So what happens when a predatory industry known as multi-level marketing preys on young, naive students with promises of a fulfilling life? Did you see other students also drop out of university for this thing?
Yeah.
What happens when a loosely regulated MLM company is able to make promises to these students without showing their income disclosure statements? What goes on in the mind of a young college student who is worried about student debt and then manipulated with thoughts of Instagram-worthy travel, unlimited friendship, and wealth? After all they have to do is recruit a few other fellow students, right? Today I am interviewing a young woman from Australia named Molly. Molly joined a well-known health and wellness MLM and had high hopes for her future. Here she is at a house party explaining the compensation plan to potential prospects. Molly believed so much in the dream that she dropped out of university to work her MLM business full-time, only for it to all come crashing down, leaving her feeling hopeless, depressed, and like her youth was weaponized against her. But this story has a happy ending. In this interview, we are diving into all the ways MLM companies are teaching college students predatory tactics to recruit.
That's how he recruited. He recruited everyone off of Tinder. All these women off of Tinder.
Did that ever blow up in his face? Did some women ever go off on him or anything?
He would get blocked from Tinder every 2 weeks.
It's shocking, and I am so glad Molly decided not to be the good girl and speak out. This is her story, as told to me. Well, welcome to the channel, Molly. I'm so excited to have you here, and thank you for coming on to share your story.
No, thank you for having me. It was, your videos and your channel was actually what was the last sort of straw for me to leave the company I was with. So I'm really excited to share my story as well.
I think that your email had said that you left only 3 months ago. And which surprised me because a lot of the time when somebody emails me about doing an interview, they've been out for a while. And for me, it took almost 2 years to speak out. What struck me with your story was that you said, I felt like my youth was used as a weapon, and it was weaponized because they preyed on me when I was a college student. So could you tell us how young you were and how you got started with your health and wellness company?
Yeah, so I was 19 at the time. I'm 24 now. And I had a good friend who I went to school with, and his cousin was quite big in this network marketing company. So they had a massive portion of their associates were younger people. So they had this sort of party sort of night, and just tell me there's a party and I'll go. So there was this night, and I went, and I saw all these people who I thought were really inspiring. And what I know now is that was their very specific recruitment strategy for younger people, was to amp you up, get you really excited, look, so-and-so did this by this age, and so-and-so is traveling here, and look, you could do that too. So just pure, I was just very naive. I bought into that, and it was being so young, it was whenever I questioned things, it was really hard for me to then go back and to actually make a decision to leave, because I thought, well, these people are older than me and they know more than me, and that was definitely repeated to me all the time, and so it made it really, really hard to actually leave.
That's really difficult. I could see that your youth would be used against you as oh, you don't know anything, be quiet.
Yeah.
You're young.
Yep.
When did you so you joined this company, this health and wellness company at 19 years old, and how were the first few years for you? Because I think your email said you were in for 5 years, which is a long time. And
Yeah.
you even told me that you dropped out of college. Can you tell me about that progression?
Yeah. So dropping out of university was my biggest regret because, and I always kind of, I always questioned what was happening. I was always like, oh, I don't know about that. And how do I know that this person is actually making what they say they're making? And why do we have to do things this way? I always question things. And that's what was really hard for me to wrap my head around when I left, is because I was like, well, I always question things. So why did I stay? But, I guess at the time, the positives of staying sort of outweighed the negatives. So I always hear, you never join a multi-level marketing company where things are going great in your life. So, at the time I was studying, I didn't know if I wanted to be doing what I was doing. There were some family issues, and these people, we're family, we're a sisterhood, you just join us. Don't worry about, I never exiled my family, but it was very much like, we have your back. They don't understand what you're doing. They don't understand this ambition that you have. So I wanted to believe it. I really desperately needed to believe it. So I did. And the parties were fun. And, I met so many friends there. So it was not only this sort of career move, if you can call it that, but it was all my friends and, a health and wellness company, it like down to what you eat. So it was everything. It was my whole life. So to leave and to listen to those red flags was really, really hard. So to answer your question, yeah, I questioned things, but I wasn't willing to explore that questioning at all.
So did you have a lot of college friends also join this company?
Yeah.
And what was the rhetoric around education? Were they telling you like, oh, you don't need this education, like this is going to be the vehicle to get you where you want to go?
Yeah, it was. And the funny thing is, I noticed this progression, or how their sort of narrative around education changed over the years. So when I started, it was very much like, you don't need a degree to do this. You don't need skills to do this. Anyone could do this, which is, I don't know if I could swear. I won't swear. Which is, not true. So it was that. And then over the years, I think they might have, copped some flack around it. So they started saying, go to school and do this as a side hustle. And, when you're finished, you can do this full time, and you can, only pursue your job because you love it, not because you have to. So the narrative around it changed a lot, but behind the scenes, it was very much like, this degree is a waste of time. And I actually did go back to university while I was there, and then I dropped out again. And because it was very much like, it's this or that, and you're not going to, you're not going to succeed if you're kind of dedicating your time to two things. And because I guess just personal circumstances, like the money helped, and family circumstances at the time, and just like I said, no one joins a network marketing company because they're extremely happy. So I kind of had to stay, and until it all kind of reached a boiling point where I knew, okay, if I'm young enough to fix this now, I'd rather leave now than leave at 35 with a baby, and know nothing. So, but yeah, in short, the story was very much like, this is your vehicle to get where you want to go.
It's interesting you said like they changed the narrative around education as time went on, because I saw that too. And I wonder if we started to see that around the same time, because when I originally joined in 2013, which my first company was also a health and wellness company, it was very much like, oh, look, I have this master's degree on the wall. I'm not even using it because this company is the way. This company is going to take me to do all this, and it supports my family. And then I remember as time went on, maybe like 3 years later, we would say to our upline, who was $1 million earner, okay, like, how can we get our girls on our team to succeed? Like, they're struggling. We need to help them. Like, we want them to have the success that we're having. Because we were like, the people that were saying that were like 6-figure earners, talking to the big, like, top 10 people, like, what can we do? And I remember them saying, like, well, just tell them that it's a part-time thing and that they should do it as just a side hustle, just as something they love. And maybe they don't need to do it full time, because the money was starting to dry up, which happens in a lot of MLMs. Like, the income, like, you hit this momentum phase and then it goes downhill. And we were in the downhill trend. And that's when the narrative started to change. It was like, oh no, don't tell them to set a goal to do it full time.
Yeah.
I just was like, what is it here? Come on. So what were you going to school for, and what caused you to drop out a second time? Was it because the MLM was taking all your time? Was it something else?
I was studying psychology, and really what made me stop was just the constant, like, from my upline, they were also 6-7 figure earners, so just the constant in my ear, like, what is it, this or that, you're not putting in enough time, you're not good enough, you're not I told you to do this and you didn't do it that way, so this is why you're failing. Like, it was just the constant in my ear. And again, using that youth as a weapon, like, you're really young, you don't have life experience, so you should be listening to us. And so it was just the constant in my ear. And so I kind of had to decide. And again, it was the worst decision I ever made, was to leave. And I was just holding on hope, like seeing a few younger people doing really well. And I thought, well, if they could do it, and this is what they sell to you as well, is if they could do it, then I can. But I never actually looked into, firstly, what I signed, but the income disclosure statements too. So I encourage anyone, like, actually, don't join the company, but, when you're looking into it, look at the income disclosure statement. And that made me feel better when I left, because, it was less than 1% of people who actually made a livable income, let alone a 6-figure income. So they sell these stories of these tiny, tiny, tiny few people, and make you believe that you can do that too, which statistically, if you look at it, you're destined to fail from the start.
Yeah, absolutely. It's designed for you to fail, for sure. And only those with large networks usually do well. And even then, I mean, I left for a reason. It was a nightmare. It's interesting with, like you said, that they took you to a party when they recruited you, or I should say when they were prospecting you, because that's what you would have been called behind the scenes, as though she's a prospect. We're trying to recruit her. What tactics did you notice them using on college students specifically? Did they come onto campus? How did they reach out to college students initially?
So the party was really fun. And all the parties were really fun, like over the top fun. So it was like a nightclub at 9 a.m. It was insane. So it was selling that, college students, like, everyone's partying. So they sell the fun and they hype it up. And so they would have guest speakers who were leaders in the company, who were younger, so who were 25 or 26, and they would share their magical story of how they traveled the world and they work from anywhere and have this time freedom. And so they would share these stories of these relatable people, and then they would have a massive party at the end, and there'd be drinks, and there'd be not like a DJ and full on. So any younger person goes, oh my God, what is this? This is amazing. So they prey on that, I guess, what younger people want, which is fun and freedom.
Right. Were they serving alcohol there?
Yes. Yes.
Very interesting. So were they encouraging alcoholic beverages and then like having people sign up on the spot?
Not really. No, it was never, it wasn't, they, with this company, it was never, for what I experienced anyway, there was never really that sign up on the spot sort of push. But it was definitely like, we were taught, like, you know, have all these people at your house or hire a hall or do these parties, whatever, and you better follow them up tomorrow to sign them up. So there was never that massive push to enroll them on the spot, but and I think, you know, what they taught us was to really be their friend. So I'm not going to push you. I'm not going to force you to do anything. And so they think that, oh my, you know, they think like, this person is so kind, this person is awesome. They're not a, you know, a weird salesy chick that I met on Instagram. They're just this normal person. So I think that was more the sales tactic, is to really be their friend and act like you care about them. So then the next day they do want to get started.
Interesting. And yeah, the whole like, oh, be their friend, and then the fortunes in the follow-up. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I remember all that. Wow. So when was it? You joined at 19 years old. How soon in did you quit college? And what was kind of your thought process around that? Did any of your friends like say, hey, this isn't a good idea, or anyone in your family, or what happened there?
It was about a year in. And it wasn't even as though I was making the money to justify that. So that was my family's biggest hang up, was, what are you quitting for? Like, you're not, I was making it a side hustle income, which was okay. But that was my family's biggest thing, was, you know, what are you quitting for? You're not, it's not like you're making all this money that kind of justifies that decision. So yeah, it was about a year in. And then that's when the massive pressure started. Was because, well, okay, I've kind of burnt that bridge, so to speak. Now you actually have to make this work. And that's kind of when my, you know, anxiety really started, and I started having panic attacks. It was all downhill from there.
Oh, that's terrible. Yeah, I remember going through something similar. So you had panic attacks, and then how many years later did you go back into college? And then what was the mindset around quitting again around that?
So it was as though every year I had this existential crisis. So it was always around Christmas time or New Year's time that I kind of had this existential crisis. And so then it was about a year later that I went back, same degree, just got another year done, which in hindsight was actually good because it will help me with what I'm studying now. But then it was the same thing again. It was another year of me not hitting those ranks. So because I'm really like ambitious and I need to, you know, I really like to do things well and I like to achieve, that was also used against me. It was, you know, you have these goals, you have this ambition, but I don't understand why you're not getting the results. You should be working harder. You're not good enough. So again, I just kept going and going and going because I just so desperately wanted to achieve. So I thought, okay, well, I guess I can't do both. And I really made that. I thought I really made that decision. I said I would never go back and study again, which, you know, in hindsight was horrible. But I really thought I would never go and study again. And so I just kept pushing and pushing and pushing until I couldn't justify it anymore.
And what happened around that time? Was there a specific thing that happened? Was it a specific incident or like a specific panic attack you remember? Or where was it that you like kind of woke up and was like, I got to get out of this?
So when I decided to get out of it, which was, so I seriously started questioning very seriously about a year ago. I'm sure you can relate to this too. You have wins and then it drops, and then your income is like a roller coaster. And I was really just getting exhausted, like really exhausted. Anxiety was getting a lot worse. Family relationships were strained. It was everything in my life seemed to be getting a lot worse. And so I started questioning. I really didn't get along with my upline very well because I just didn't believe in the way that they were doing things. So initially, I thought it was my upline. So I thought, I thought it was them, and I saw their incomes drop. So I thought it was my team. And so initially I thought that I was going to change teams. So with this company, you have to wait a year. So I decided that I would leave and wait that year. In that time though, I started watching your videos, and because I was questioning things, and I thought, well, should I even wait this year, or should I just, is this like a sign that I should actually just stop? And I started watching your videos, and I related to everything that you said, and the recruitment strategies and all these other people's stories. And so I think I was really overwhelmed by that, because it really kind of hit home for me that this was not real, and this it was a pipe dream, and none of this that I'd been working towards was actually real. And I realized that I was really heavily manipulated, and that I was essentially in a cult. So that caused a lot of panic. And so one night, out of the blue, and I'd never had a panic attack like this before, but I had worked a really long day. I was nannying at the time, and I just handed the baby back, and I pretended like everything was okay. And
wait, you were doing what at the time?
Nannying. I was a nanny.
Oh, a nanny. Got it. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. And so that whole day, I just felt funny. I was like obsessed with watching your videos. And I was just watching them all day when the kid was napping and trying to figure this all out. And I handed the baby back and pretended I was all my happy self. And then I went to my room, and I just couldn't stop myself from crying, which is not like me at all. And I was just crying and crying and crying. And then it turned into that sort of anxious feeling in my stomach. And it just kept getting worse and worse and worse. And I couldn't stop it. It was as though like I really didn't have control over my body. I didn't sleep all night at all. I couldn't. And I was on the phone to my parents, and at the time I was living in another state, and luckily for me, I had my mum fly up the next morning, and that was the straw that I just said, I never want to feel like that again, and I can't keep working for this fake dream. So it was that massive panic attack that made me really, I will never go back to a network marketing company ever again.
Once you've had that experience, not even just like the panic attack, but that feeling where you're like, I will never go back. It's like something just clicks and you get it. Do you feel that you were crying because you were stressed about making the decision to leave, or what was it that you remember?
I think I was crying because it truly hit home what had happened, and I still struggle with this now, is the guilt, is how manipulated I was, and I was questioning, like, why did I not leave? Like, I've wasted 5 years of my life, and that's why I wanted to do this interview with you now, is because if I can hopefully, help someone else who is younger and they're wasting time in these companies that's not going to go anywhere, just leave. You need to leave, because that feeling, and I'm still dealing with it now, is, yes, the guilt of the people that I recruited and all of that, and actually like rang around my team and apologized to everyone. But even more so, like the guilt that I wasted so much time, and I forfeited so much fun. I didn't go on road trips. Like, I didn't go and party. I was just work, and then being beaten down that you worked hard, but that's not good enough. You're not good enough. So, yeah, it was horrible. Yeah.
Were you, when you say you were working, were you constantly like taking pictures for Instagram to show the lifestyle? What all did that include?
So it was the constant, I always had my phone with me, and it was getting really draining. So I always had my phone on me, regardless of what I was doing. If I had a good prospect who I think was, nearly ready to enroll, like that took priority over everything. So if I was, at a dinner with my family for a birthday and so-and-so called, oh, I got to go. Or, constantly taking photos to Instagram. My friends who are in the company would get really annoyed with me. They're like, does everything have to be Instagram? Like, why does everything have to go
Yes,
on
in
Instagram
MLM it
story?
does.
Yeah. And, with the friends that were in the company, it was just this constant, like, okay, we're going to go to the beach, but before we can have fun, okay, make sure everyone's bikini looks really good. And, we're going to make sure the light is good here. And then we're going to spend 45 minutes taking photos and editing it on Lightroom so that we can then post it and show how much fun we're having. And look how great, it just makes me cringe, like how great we look because we use these products. It was constant. Like, even if you go to a cafe, you can't just sit there and enjoy the coffee, because you have to think, is the barista worthy of being prospected? So it's just this constant, like, constantly recruiting, constantly prospecting, constantly posting. And it was all fake, at the time. And I always say, I don't think everyone in these companies are bad people. Some definitely are, and they know exactly what they're doing. But many are just really brainwashed, and they think that what they're doing is a good thing.
Yeah, it's hard. I feel the same. I think that most people who join are good people and they have good intentions, and they get sucked into something they never saw coming. And
Yes.
of course, you'll have those bad faith actors, how you do in every group and every industry, but it's hard. I remember being told for social media to turn our social media timeline like into a reality show. I remember being told to post 3 to 5 times a day.
Wow.
And I don't even have social media anymore. I deactivated my accounts last year just for a breather, because I had for 6 years, that was my life every single day. Okay, what content can I create today? What pictures can I take? How can I stage this? Or if you went out to a restaurant, like, oh, okay, is this restaurant, am I going to be able to get a good picture here? Is the lighting going to be okay?
Yeah.
And it's so crazy to think that, like, that's what life revolved around, but it really did. And I remember going on those vacations with, that were earned or whatever, and everyone just had their phone out the whole time, all the time. And you was like, we're not even on vacation here. We're just working to recruit others. What kind of tactics were you told to use on social media?
I'll just say, before you said that, it made me laugh. Even when I left, I was still like addicted to social media. So the same thing as you is I deleted those accounts that had any evidence of my involvement in multi-level marketing, because I can't have a future employer or someone would see that crap. So I just deleted those accounts and created new ones. And even then, I moved back from Queensland to Melbourne, and there are horses near my parents' house. And anyway, I was walking down there and it was really pretty, and the horses, and I got my phone out. I'm like, why? No, put the phone away. Why does this need to go on your Instagram story? Who cares? Just go and feed the horse. Who cares? You don't need to post it.
The stories were the worst, because those are like constant, and you're constantly supposed to be updating your stories. Those were horrible.
Yeah, I know. Anyway, so the tactics were, we were told to post, initially it was twice a day, and then it changed to, we all know you're so busy, let's post a really good post once a day. So we would offer, it was a whole thing. We had a team, like, social media calendar. and they would tell us like what to post on what days, what sort of theme to kind of post on what days. And everyone, the funny thing was, now I look back, everyone looked the same. Like everyone's outfits were the same and everyone's hair was the same. The poses were the same, and the cringy photos with like the product, and it was, everyone just looked really staged. So, and like the fake, you know, group photo of everyone, the candid photo that was a fake laugh anyway. So, yeah, so we were taught to, post once a day. It was really important for the aesthetic to look really great. So everyone would use the same filter on Lightroom and, you know, all that, and constantly be on your stories. You know, they really encourage you to share your life. So, whatever's happening in your life, good or bad, be relatable. And it was just too much. I was spending like 2 hours a day on social media just creating content.
Easily.
Yeah.
Easily. Oh my goodness. I remember when I started, their stories did not exist back in 2013, but I remember when they came out, I was like, oh, this is cool. And then it was just like you said, like, you're always supposed to be adding to your stories. You're always supposed to be putting, like, showing your life behind the scenes. And it just got to a point where it was like, you're living your life just to show a life online to recruit.
Yeah. And you're not actually living your life because you're constantly like, I have to get back to this person. I have to do this. I have to post this on Instagram. Even like you said before, I wouldn't go to a restaurant or a cafe unless it looked cute. Are you serious?
Yeah, I know. You're constantly curating a life to show. And you're not even really living life whatsoever. It's funny because the other day, my husband and I have not eaten out at a restaurant due to the pandemic since February of 2020. And we were talking about when we go out again, because we're both high risk. So we were just like, we're not even chancing it. So we were talking about like when we go out again, where we'd go and whatnot. And all of a sudden, like it hit me. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be able to like enjoy a restaurant and not even have to think about like, oh, is the aesthetic going to look cute? You're like,
you know, but when you get upset that it's not.
I know. It's scary how much it warps your brain to where it becomes normalized, because it is anything but normal. And I know for me, like, I thought that I always appeared really happy and like motivational and whatnot. But I remember talking with my oldest sister after I had been out for a while, and I said something about how stressed I really was behind the scenes. And she was like, oh, I remember how stressed you were. And I was like, what are you talking about? Like, how would you know I was stressed? She's like, you were always talking about how you had to leave a family lunch early because you had to go hit a quota and for the month. And I didn't realize that my stress was showing to others. I thought I was keeping it cool, calm, and collected. Did you have any friends or family say to you like, oh yeah, you weren't yourself or anything like that?
Yeah, I had a lot of it. When I made a post saying that I left network marketing, and I had so many messages from friends and family saying, and phone calls. Like I had one of my housemates who was a really good friend of mine. We caught up and she goes, I'm just so happy that you left, because we would talk in the house and say like, Molly is too good for this shit. like what is she doing? And like they could see, like they were the ones, I lived with them and they could see how hard I was working. I was always working. You know, we'd have a house barbecue and, oh, sorry guys, like I'll pop out for a few minutes to have a drink. But I've got to go back and call so-and-so. So I had that. And then also funny, from my sister. So she's the opposite to me. She's really quiet, reserved lawyer. And I rang her to tell her, you know, that I'd quit and everything. And she just starts crying. And it is that she doesn't cry. She doesn't show joy, let alone cry. So she is like very serious. She cried and she goes, I was just so worried about you because I could see what was happening. And, you know, as kids, you were always like the happy, bubbly person. And I knew that was just a facade now. And she was telling me how she remembers what I was like in my last years of high school and how dedicated I was. And I did really well. And I could have gone and done whatever 5 years ago, could have had a master's degree by now. So like she was saying all this to me, and even to the point of how our relationship was strained. Because I always used to complain to my parents, like, and my brother, Jack and Fred, they don't want to go out with me anymore. And, my sister was saying, I don't want to go out with you because you were weird. And I knew that if we went to a nightclub or we went wherever, you would be talking to every person there, which I would have been. So my relationships with my siblings and my family was really strained because of my obsession with this business. So I had a lot of that.
I remember not feeling like I could, if I did say like go and hang out with friends or something, I usually was always the first to leave because I would feel guilty for taking that time away from my business. Because you're always told, sorry, I have a awful hair. You're always told like, oh, work hard now, push things out. Like, you'll have more time with your friends and family down the road when you've accumulated all this wealth and you're doing great and you're making short-term sacrifices for long-term gain. So when you were out with people, were you told to just like walk up to somebody you didn't know and start prospecting them?
Yes. And I'm very social as it is, but I always felt really funny doing that. I really didn't like that at all. The only time I would do it was if I had a few drinks. So by then I was just really keen to talk to anyone who wanted to talk to me. But, if it was 11 a.m. on a Tuesday, I was really awkward and I really didn't like, and I didn't. And that was part of that gave them, my upline, reason to reprimand me is, well, you're not willing to do what it takes. And so, that was always fed to me as well. So I did a bit of that cold sort of prospecting, but I felt really, really awkward doing it. It's gross.
What were you supposed to say to somebody you didn't know that you're prospecting?
You're supposed to just go and connect, make a friend. So, it was easy if you were at a party or a nightclub or a bar or whatever, because people do that kind of all the time. So I would wait. This is so bad. I would wait until I'd had a few drinks and I felt like, okay, this is awkward, but I'm like, I've had a few drinks. So like I had the sort of liquid courage to go and do it. And so I would, and I'd make friends, whatever, and I actually still talk to some of them. Like I actually made some friends, but you're supposed to just go and connect and chat. And I remember my direct upline, she told me, she goes, she was about 15 years older than me, and she goes, oh, if I were you, I would be at every nightclub every weekend, and I would ditch my friends and just go up all the levels and just add everyone on Facebook. Just insane.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh my gosh. How stressful. Oh my goodness.
You could even go and enjoy a night out and just dance and have fun.